Critical thinking. Train your mind to see clearly and grow strong. Critical thinking is the ability to think clearly, logically, and independently. It is not just about having knowledge. It is about using knowledge correctly. Many people collect information, but they do not question it. They accept what they hear. They react quickly. They decide emotionally. This weakens the mind. Critical thinking activates your mind. It forces you to pause, analyze, and evaluate. Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of assuming, you examine. Instead of believing everything, you test it. When you develop critical thinking, your thinking process becomes deeper. You stop seeing problems only from one angle. You begin to see both positive and negative sides. You ask, what are the benefits? What are the risks? What evidence supports this idea? What evidence goes against it? This balanced thinking protects you from mistakes. Logical thinking is part of critical thinking. Logic means clear reasoning. For example, if one action leads to a result, you examine the connection. Is it cause and effect? Or just coincidence? You look for proof. You remove emotional bias. You avoid jumping to conclusions. Critical thinking also changes how you see problems. Most people see problems as obstacles. A critical thinker sees problems as situations to analyze. Instead of saying, "This is bad," you ask, "Why did this happen? What can be learned? What are the options?" This mindset reduces fear and increases control. Another important part is open-mindedness. Critical thinking does not mean rejecting everything. It means being willing to consider different viewpoints. When you can see both sides of an issue, you become mentally stronger. You understand that reality is complex. Few situations are completely right or completely wrong. This skill helps your brain grow. When you question, compare, and analyze, your brain forms stronger connections. Your thinking becomes sharper. Your decisions improve. You avoid manipulation because you test information before accepting it. Critical thinking also builds emotional stability. When you evaluate facts calmly, emotions do not control you. You think before speaking. You calculate before acting. This creates discipline in your mind. Over time, your mindset changes. You become more independent. You rely less on others' opinions. You trust your reasoning process. You become confident, not because you know everything, but because you know how to think. Now understand clearly, critical thinking is not natural for everyone. It must be trained. Just like muscles grow with exercise, thinking grows with practice. Below are the major benefits and practical methods to develop this skill step by step. I will write each point one by one in detail, in a clear and instructional way. Benefit 1. Better decision making. Critical thinking improves your decision making by forcing your mind to slow down and analyze before acting. Most people make decisions based on emotion, pressure, fear, or excitement. These decisions may feel right in the moment, but they often create regret later. A critical thinker does not rush. He examines the situation carefully. When you think critically, you begin by identifying the real problem. Many people react to surface-level issues. For example, if you feel stressed at work, you may think the job is the problem. But critical thinking asks deeper questions. Is it workload? Poor time management? lack of skill, poor communication. By identifying the root cause, your decision becomes more accurate. Critical thinking also makes you evaluate consequences. Every action has short-term and long-term effects. An emotional decision focuses only on immediate relief or reward. A critical thinker studies what will happen tomorrow, next month, or next year. This protects your future. Another important part is comparing alternatives. Instead of choosing between yes or no, you ask, are there other options? Is there a middle path? Are there creative solutions? This expands your thinking. Many mistakes happen because people limit their options. Critical thinking also reduces external influence. Society, friends, social media, and trends constantly push opinions. Without critical thinking, you follow others. With critical thinking, you examine their advice. You ask, does this align with my goals? Is this evidence-based? Is this logical? Over time, your decisions become structured, not emotional. You rely on reasoning, evidence, and long-term vision. This creates stability in life. Your career improves because you choose wisely. Your relationships improve because you communicate thoughtfully. Your finances improve because you calculate risks before acting. Confidence grows naturally from good decisions. When you repeatedly make thoughtful choices, you trust your mind. You no longer depend on luck. You depend on reasoning. This is the power of critical thinking in decision-making. It transforms you from reactive to strategic. Benefit 2: stronger problem-solving skills. Critical thinking strengthens your ability to solve problems because it trains your mind to work in a structured and disciplined way. Most people react emotionally when problems appear. They feel stress, frustration, or fear. Emotional reactions reduce clarity. Critical thinking replaces reaction with analysis. The first step in strong problem solving is defining the problem correctly. Many people try to solve the wrong problem. For example, if your results are poor, you may blame luck. A critical thinker investigates deeper. Is it lack of preparation? Weak strategy? Poor time management? Lack of feedback? Correct diagnosis is half the solution. Critical thinking also teaches you to break large problems into smaller parts. Big problems feel overwhelming because they look complex. When you divide them into sections, they become manageable. You handle one part at a time. This reduces stress and increases control. Another important skill is identifying root causes instead of treating symptoms. If a machine stops working, cleaning the outside does not fix the internal damage. Similarly, in life, surface actions do not solve deep issues. A critical thinker searches for patterns and causes. You ask, what triggered this? When did it begin? What factors are connected? Critical thinking also encourages testing solutions logically. Instead of guessing, you evaluate which solution has the highest probability of success. You measure risk and benefit. You consider possible obstacles before acting. This prevents repeated mistakes. A strong problem solver remains calm under pressure. Calmness comes from clarity. When you know how to analyze a situation step by step, panic reduces. You understand that every problem has structure, and anything with structure can be studied. This skill makes you valuable in professional and personal life. Employers respect individuals who solve problems without creating drama. Families trust people who think logically during conflict. Leadership requires this ability. Over time, your mindset changes. You stop fearing problems. You begin to see them as mental exercises. Each challenge becomes training for your brain. That is the strength of critical thinking in problem solving. Benefit 3. Protection from manipulation. Critical thinking protects your mind from manipulation. In modern society, information is everywhere. News, social media, advertisements, influencers, and even people around you constantly present opinions and claims. Not all of them are true. Not all of them are logical. Without critical thinking, your mind becomes easy to control. Manipulation often works through emotion. Fear, excitement, anger, and urgency are common tools. For example, a headline may create panic to gain attention. An advertisement may promise unrealistic results to trigger desire. A person may use guilt to control your decision. If you react emotionally, you lose clarity. Critical thinking creates distance between stimulus and response. When you hear a claim, you ask, what is the evidence? Who benefits if I believe this? Is this fact or opinion? Is important information missing? These questions weaken manipulation immediately. Another protection comes from understanding bias. Every source has perspective. Media may have political bias. Companies have financial interest. Individuals have personal motives. A critical thinker identifies possible bias before accepting information. This does not mean rejecting everything. It means evaluating carefully. You also learn to separate correlation from causation. Just because two events happen together does not mean one caused the other. Manipulators often misuse statistics. Critical thinking examines logic behind numbers. This skill protects your finances. You avoid scams and unrealistic investments. It protects your time. You do not follow every trend blindly. It protects your mental peace. You do not panic over exaggerated news. Most importantly, it protects your independence. An independent thinker cannot be easily influenced by peer pressure. You make decisions based on reasoning, not popularity. Over time, your mindset becomes skeptical but balanced. Not negative, not cynical, but careful. You remain open to new ideas, but you test them before acceptance. This mental filter is powerful. It saves you from costly mistakes and emotional traps. That is the value of critical thinking as protection. Benefit 4. Balanced perspective. Critical thinking trains your mind to see both sides of any situation. Most people think in extremes. They see something as completely right or completely wrong. This type of thinking is emotional and limited. A critical thinker understands that reality is often complex. When you develop balanced thinking, you automatically ask, what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What arguments support this idea? What arguments challenge it? This habit prevents narrow judgment. For example, in a disagreement, most people defend their position immediately. They focus only on proving themselves correct. A critical thinker listens carefully. You try to understand the other side's reasoning. Even if you disagree, you analyze their logic. This reduces unnecessary conflict. Balanced perspective also improves decision-making. Every opportunity carries risk. Every risk may carry opportunity. When you examine both sides, you reduce blind optimism and unnecessary fear. You become realistic. Another benefit is emotional stability. Extreme thinking increases stress. If you think a small failure means total disaster, anxiety grows. Balanced thinking keeps reactions proportional. You evaluate the situation calmly. You understand that one mistake does not define your entire future. This perspective also strengthens leadership. Leaders must consider multiple viewpoints before making decisions. When you can see both positive and negative aspects, people trust your judgment. They see fairness in your reasoning. Critical thinking also reduces bias. Personal beliefs, culture, and past experiences influence perception. Balanced analysis forces you to question your own assumptions. You ask, am I seeing this clearly? Or am I influenced by emotion or past experience? Over time, your mindset becomes mature. You stop reacting based on impulse. You respond based on evaluation. You become patient in discussions. You become less defensive and more analytical. Balanced perspective does not mean indecision. It means informed decision. After examining both sides, you choose confidently because your conclusion is based on understanding, not impulse. This is how critical thinking builds fairness, clarity, and emotional strength. Benefit 5. Mental growth and deep confidence. Critical thinking strengthens your brain over time. Just like physical exercise builds muscles, mental analysis builds neural strength. When you regularly question, compare, evaluate, and reflect, your brain forms stronger connections. Your thinking becomes faster, clearer, and more organized. Many people live on automatic thinking. They repeat what they hear. They copy opinions. They follow habits without reflection. This keeps the mind weak. Critical thinking forces active mental engagement. You do not accept information passively. You process it. This mental activity improves concentration. When you analyze deeply, distractions reduce. Your mind learns to stay focused on one issue at a time. Focus increases clarity. Clarity increases quality of thought. Another major result is intellectual independence. You stop depending heavily on others to think for you. Advice becomes input, not command. You respect expertise, but you still evaluate it. This independence builds real confidence. There is a difference between loud confidence and deep confidence. Loud confidence is based on ego. Deep confidence is based on reasoning ability. When you know that you can examine any situation logically, fear reduces. Even if you do not know the answer immediately, you trust your ability to find it. Critical thinking also improves self-awareness. You begin to observe your own thought patterns. You recognize emotional triggers. You detect personal bias. This internal analysis strengthens emotional control. Over time, your mindset shifts from reactive to reflective. You do not rush to conclusions. You investigate. You verify. You adjust when new evidence appears. This flexibility keeps your mind growing. Mental growth also increases adaptability. The world changes constantly. New technologies, new information, new challenges appear. A rigid thinker struggles. A critical thinker adapts because thinking is based on principles, not fixed assumptions. As your reasoning improves, complexity no longer intimidates you. Difficult topics become challenges to understand rather than threats to avoid. This intellectual courage separates average thinking from advanced thinking. In the long term, this growth shapes your personality. You become calm, analytical, disciplined, and confident. Your opinions are thoughtful. Your words carry weight. Your decisions are respected. This is the highest benefit of critical thinking: a strong, independent, and continuously developing mind. Now we begin the improvement section. Method 1. Ask better questions. Critical thinking begins with the quality of your questions. Weak questions produce weak thinking. Strong questions activate deep analysis. Most people accept information at surface level. They hear something and either agree or disagree. A critical thinker does not stop there. You investigate. When you hear a statement, do not immediately decide whether it is true or false. First ask, what is the source? What evidence supports this? Is this fact or opinion? What assumptions are being made? What information might be missing? These questions slow your thinking in a productive way. They prevent blind acceptance. They also prevent emotional reaction. For example, if someone says, "This method guarantees success," a passive thinker believes or rejects it instantly. A critical thinker asks, "What data proves this? What does success mean? Are there exceptions? Who benefits from promoting this claim?" Asking better questions also applies to your own beliefs. This is very important. Do not only question others, question yourself. Ask, why do I believe this? Is my opinion based on evidence or habit? Am I influenced by past experience or fear? This habit strengthens intellectual honesty. You become less defensive. When new evidence appears, you are willing to adjust your thinking. In problem solving, questions help you find the root cause. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What factors created this situation?" Instead of asking, "Who is wrong?" ask, "What process failed?" Questions create clarity. Clarity reduces confusion. Confusion often comes from undefined thinking. When you define the issue through precise questioning, your brain organizes information more effectively. To practice this skill daily, choose one news article, one conversation, or one decision and analyze it deeply. Write down at least 5 analytical questions about it. Over time, this becomes automatic. Asking better questions transforms your mind from passive receiver to active investigator. This is the foundation of critical thinking. Method 2. Analyze both sides of every issue. To improve critical thinking, you must train your mind to examine opposing viewpoints. Most people naturally defend their existing beliefs. This creates mental comfort but limits growth. A critical thinker intentionally studies disagreement. When you encounter an opinion, do not immediately protect your position. First ask, "What are the strongest arguments against my belief?" If you cannot explain the opposing side clearly, your understanding is incomplete. For example, if you support a particular strategy, list its advantages. Then force yourself to list its disadvantages. What risks exist? Under what conditions might it fail? Who might disagree, and why? This exercise strengthens logical balance. It prevents overconfidence. It also reduces emotional attachment to ideas. Remember, your identity should not depend on being right. Your goal is clarity, not victory. Analyzing both sides improves judgment. Many poor decisions happen because people only see benefits and ignore risks. Balanced evaluation reduces blind spots. You calculate before committing. This habit also improves communication. When you understand opposing views, discussions become calmer. You do not attack, you evaluate. This increases respect in professional and personal environments. Another important effect is bias reduction. Every person has cognitive bias shaped by culture, upbringing, and past experiences. When you intentionally search for counterarguments, you weaken those biases. Your thinking becomes more objective. To practice this daily, choose one belief you strongly hold. Research credible arguments that challenge it. Do not search to defeat them. Search to understand them. This exercise may feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is mental growth. Over time, your brain becomes flexible. You learn that most issues are not black and white. They exist in layers. You become skilled at identifying trade-offs. Balanced analysis does not mean indecision. After studying both sides, you still make a decision. But your decision is informed, not emotional. This method strengthens reasoning depth and intellectual maturity. Method 3. Slow down your thinking. Fast thinking is automatic. Slow thinking is analytical. Most mistakes happen because decisions are made too quickly. Emotional reactions feel urgent, but urgency is often psychological, not real. Critical thinking requires mental discipline. When facing an important decision, pause. Do not respond immediately. Create space between stimulus and response. When someone criticizes you, the natural reaction is defense. Slow thinking asks, is this criticism valid? Is there partial truth? What evidence supports it? This pause prevents emotional damage and improves learning. Slowing down also helps in complex situations. If a problem feels overwhelming, write it down. Break it into smaller parts. Define the main issue. List possible solutions. Evaluate each option logically. Another benefit of slow thinking is risk evaluation. Many opportunities look attractive at first glance. Quick thinking sees reward. Slow thinking examines risk, cost, time investment, and long-term impact. To practice this habit, wait before making major decisions. Write pros and cons. Ask what could go wrong. Consider long-term consequences. This method strengthens rational control. Over time, you become less reactive and more strategic. Method 4. Read and expose yourself to different perspectives. Mental growth requires exposure. If you only consume information that supports your existing beliefs, your thinking becomes narrow. Critical thinking grows through intellectual diversity. Read books from different authors. Study opposing opinions. Listen to experts with different approaches. Exposure does not mean agreement. It means expansion. When you encounter unfamiliar ideas, your brain must analyze instead of assuming. This strengthens reasoning ability. For example, if you always read material that confirms your views, you reinforce bias. If you intentionally explore alternative perspectives, you challenge your assumptions. This deepens understanding. This method also improves adaptability. The world changes rapidly. New technologies, systems, and strategies appear. A mind trained to explore different viewpoints adapts faster. Practical steps. Read material outside your comfort zone. Follow debates on complex topics. Compare multiple sources before forming conclusions. Study logical reasoning and cognitive bias. Over time, your thinking becomes layered. You recognize complexity instead of oversimplifying reality. Method 5. Reflect on your decisions and thinking patterns. Reflection converts experience into wisdom. Without reflection, experience repeats. Critical thinkers review their decisions regularly. After making an important choice, ask, "What was my reasoning? What assumptions did I make? What evidence did I use? What could I improve next time?" This self-analysis strengthens awareness. You begin to recognize patterns in your thinking. For example, you may notice you rush when stressed. Or you may realize you avoid difficult decisions. Reflection also helps identify bias. Everyone has blind spots. Reviewing past outcomes exposes them. This is not self-criticism. It is structured improvement. Keep a thinking journal. After major decisions, write your reasoning and later evaluate the result. Over time, you will see improvement in clarity and judgment. Reflection builds mental discipline. It turns mistakes into lessons. It sharpens future thinking. Eventually, this practice creates a powerful mindset. Calm under pressure. Logical in conflict. Objective in evaluation. Flexible with new evidence. Confident without arrogance. This completes the 5 methods to improve critical thinking.